Hey everybody, Doug, your realtor. Thanks for letting me pop in today, Friday, I wish, August 26th. Man, I hope you all had a great week. Hope you have fun weekend plans. And of course, I hope you, your friends, family, and loved ones continue to be happy, healthy, safe, and well. I'm going to touch base on one thing about real estate, and then of course, Fun Fact Friday, so make sure you stick around for that. Okay, I hear this daily, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing because there's just so much information that's out there. And most of it tries to terrify versus clarify. So my goal today is to clarify. Here's what I hear. Man, when are we going to get into the housing crash? When you think the housing, or are we in a housing crash? And there's going to be a housing crash. I can guarantee it. Well, no, there really isn't, and let me try to clarify on it. When does a housing crash take effect? Well, it's when there is less or more inventory than the amount of demand for those houses. Are we there? No, far from it. Will we get there? No, can't see that happening either. And there's reasons for that. And that's what I'm going to delve into to ease your mind or to clarify that there's really not going to be or anticipated of another housing crash. There is really three things that would increase the inventory so dramatically that there's not enough demand to take care of that inventory. Simple supply and demand, pure economics, folks. I've talked about it before. Hope you're not sick of it, but that's what I have to look at. I look at the statistics, historical data, and what the forecast is based on those historical facts and figures. So only three ways that you could tilt the scales to where there's way too much inventory for the amount of demand that's out there. One is normal home sales. You know, someone who wants to upsize or upgrade, downsize, move to a place that's closer to the kids, grandkids, retirement community, another state, or, you know, they just want something new. People do that. They just want a newer house. I've outlived this one. There's just not enough people that are doing that. There's inventory has increased, no doubt about it, but there's not near as much inventory, and that will not bring us to the level where it will tip the scales. It's just not going to happen. You know, our inventory right now is so low that a normal market, if you will, is when there are 6 months worth of inventory to sell. Right now, nationwide, we're a little bit less than 3 months. Here in San Diego proper, we are less than 2 months. So there's not enough inventory. And we will not see an influx of new home sales, normal home sales, that will tilt that scale the other way. And then the other way is through new construction, new builds. Unfortunately, new builds always run behind, typically run behind. You know, I mean, you have to buy the land, get it permitted, start the build, complete the build, put it on the market. Well, building permits have declined. Housing starts, of course, has declined. Homes that are in construction right now, already in that process, they've leveled off. And then homes that are completed, that's also on a decline. So there's not going to be enough new inventory come on the market because new home construction. And then the other way, the third way, is distress sales. Excuse me. That would be homes that are in foreclosure or short sales. That's a big topic that is focusing on the housing crash. There are not going to be the wave that many talking heads, social media, friends, family, loved ones, water cooler talk, etc., that's going to happen. The pre-pandemic levels, which obviously during the pandemic there really weren't any foreclosures or short sales because the government stepped in and did the right thing. They got it right, man. Is if you were affected by the pandemic, you could forbear, not pay your mortgage. So it did the right thing. You know, it allowed people to maybe miss a payment, skip a payment for up to X number of months. The good news about that, and this is what shows that it was fixed, 4 out of the 5 people that took advantage of the forbearance, or they paid off their house, are current on their mortgage, or they modified their mortgage with their lender and are able to keep the house at a different rate and term, but they're still able to keep it and afford the payments. Unfortunately, there's that 5th that is still in dire straits. Don't know what's going to happen to them. But that number is half of what the typical distressed sales properties are in a given year. They are half of what they were in 19, half of what they were in 18, and so forth. If you go back to the housing crash, there was almost 2 million, upwards to 2 million. We have 164,000 properties right now nationwide that are in a distress predicament, if you will. So even if you take those, the new builds and the normal sales, you're not going to increase your inventory where there is so much inventory and no demand for those homes that are available. It's just not going to happen. So that's why we won't see a housing crash. Now, interest rates have gone up. Yes, they did. Are they still favorable rates? Absolutely. People remember, we have short-term memories of what the interest rates were 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, up to the beginning of this year, where they started to increase each and every month. But they've stabilized, and that's the good news. They've stabilized right now. And that's part of inflation. The government has stepped in and are doing things, raising the Fed rates, of trying to slow down inflation. That's how they do it, or one of the big things that they do to reduce inflation or calm it. Well, historically, during inflationary periods, you do have a little spike or a spike in interest rates. Then they stable off, and then interest rates come down. When they start coming down towards the end of the inflationary period, they're on average of reducing like 1.8%, folks, nationwide. That's a really good sign. How long it takes for us to get there, your answer is as good as mine. I hope not as long as other inflationary periods. But this is historical. So that's all I can go by is what has happened and what could happen based on what did happen, right? So you're going to have a stable environment for interest rates. If you can buy a house now, go ahead and buy it. Okay, you can't turn the clock back and get a 2.5% interest rate. If you had the opportunity to do it back then, sorry, but you probably should have done it. Now is still a good time to buy because guess what? Home values are going to increase. When you look at inflationary periods and recessions, which is also another big word that people are spitting out there, is home values on average have gone up during inflationary periods or recessions, I guess you could say. 4 out of the last 6 recessions over the course of 45 years, I believe, home values have gone up with the exception of 2 years. One, they went down marginally, a little over 1%. The crash, which so many people believe in, it's that short-term memory again, or remember, is they went down 20%. That was huge, and most of that was because of lending practices. There was lending practices that were so easy, it was harder not to buy a house than it was to buy a house. And number of other things was used in that on refinancing and using the equity that you built up in your house as an ATM. That's what happened. I lived through it, was a realtor in it, saw people lose their house, unfortunately, for reasons that maybe they could have helped or changed. And I don't know, it was a crazy market back then. I mean, we had an inventory where there were 17 months worth of homes to sell at one given time. Now we are at less than 2 months of inventory. There's just not enough inventory for the demand of the buyers that are out there. So even though we are seeing an uptick in new homes or new listings come on the market, we're not going to see, even if you add up all three of those together, we're not going to see an influx of homes that's going to tip that scale. So there's not going to be a housing crash. I cannot see it in my personal, professional opinion, nor do the experts that I follow feel that that's going to happen to. So I hope that clarifies a little bit of information. There is so much that comes into the housing market, and every market is different. Every zip code is different. Every community within the zip code is different. If you are here in San Diego area, I'll just pick towns. Lakeside's different than Santee, and Alpine, and Lemon Grove, La Mesa, Carlsbad, Encinitas, Point Loma, Escondido. There's just all kinds of different market facts. And the only way to get that information is to look at the statistics on it. And what better way to do that than somebody who follows the market daily, whether it be myself, would love to help, or another realtor that's out there that can look at the statistics. Okay, so again, I hope that clarifies. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to know more specifics about your area, reach out to me, man. That's what I'm here for, to answer any and all questions that you may have. Okay, doke. Here we go. Ready? Fun Fact Friday? All right, I'm going to put this a little closer because sometimes I have to look down and remember what these fun facts are. They're so funny. All right, John Tyler, 10th President of the United States. He was born in 1790. He has a living 1790. Make sure you hear that. He has a living grandson right now. How'd that happen? A lot of years. Well, he did not have a child until he was 63. That child did not have a child until he was 75. So right now, Tyler, or Haley Tyler, is the oldest living grandson of President Tyler, our 10th President of the United States, 93 years old this year. It's crazy. That's a wild statistic. And then let's see. Tallest man ever recorded? Robert Wadlow, Alton, Illinois. Shout out to one town close to my hometown. I remember that when I was growing up and still remember it. Still tallest man that ever lived. Now let's see. The Earl of Sandwich, the guy who invented the sandwich. Guess why he invented the sandwich? So he didn't have to leave the gambling table. It's crazy. I see it now and I kind of wonder why. It's kind of odd, but either you're at the gambling table too long, you're winning a bunch, my suggestion, take your money and run, or you're losing too much, trying to turn that table around. Well, usually doesn't happen. Eat before you start gambling or eat after you gamble. Don't grab a sandwich when you're at the gambling table. That's for maybe a cocktail or two, right? All right, and then let's see, what else? Google's original name was supposed to be called, or was called, Backrub. They changed it for whatever reason. Backrub it. Now that would be weird to say instead of Google it, because we hear that all the time. My family kind of says they call me Mr. Google, because I'll Google all kinds of stuff. But you can't believe everything you read, right? That's why we try to clarify here, because you can find so much information on it. Anyway, Google changed the name, and how they got the name was the word Google, Googol. That is the number 1 with 100 zeros behind it. How they came up with that, couldn't tell you. Maybe I'll Google it, right? And then let's see. The platypus doesn't have a stomach. Food goes straight from the esophagus into the intestine. Only animal that has this. That's crazy, or doesn't have it, I guess, the stomach. That's absolutely amazing, in my opinion. And then let's see. Oh, according to a recent research, the human nose can detect 1 trillion different odors. I didn't even know there was 1 trillion different odors. I smelled some bad ones, smelled some good ones, but 1 trillion of them? Come on. One, how do they get to 1 trillion or close to 1 trillion? That took a lot of time, right? Anyway, that's all I got. That's the fun facts. Hope you guys have a great weekend. If there's anything I could do, please reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. Try to clarify versus terrify. Try to provide the facts to you. Okay, thanks. Take care. God bless. Have a great weekend.